Chapter 881. Lai Shan's fond remembrance during this season. Even when it rained in Black Ink Planet, it was not cold. The raindrops that fell from the sky brought with them a hint of warmth, but when they landed on a person's body, they would inevitably make their clothes wet and cause them to stick to the skin, which brought great discomfort. The oil paper umbrellas in the rain looked like flowers. If anyone looked from the sky, they would not be able to see people, but feet under the umbrellas walking forward leisurely under the rain. Su Ming had his hands placed behind his back. His long, grey hair danced in the air due to the wind blowing against it. By his side was the elegant Yu Ru. She held an umbrella in her hand and stuck close to him, as if she had truly become a maidservant. Su Ming's long hair spilled down his shoulders as he walked in the rain. Some of them grazed Yu Ru's veil, as if they had fused with it to form a picture. Behind them was the bald crane sitting on the big yellow dog. It let the rain fall on its body and had a contemptuous expression on its face, though no one knew just at whom that contempt was directed. The big yellow dog continued regarding Yu Ru with hostility as it followed behind them in the rain. Yu Chen Hai walked at the back. The group walked out of Yu family's gate, and a vast world revealed itself before them. This place was rather remote, since it was where the Yu family was located. If the group wanted to head to the auction hall, they would need to go to Blackwater City. The entire Black Ink Planet was divided into multiple regions by the families. Some of them had complicated connections with other regions, but in an overall sense, there were three largest cities within the planet: Blackwater, Inkirine, and Worldly Star. These cities were occupied by the three largest families in Black Ink Planet. Due to the fame of the three cities, the cultivators and members of alien races in Divine Essence Star Ocean gathered there, and the distribution of certain benefits. Smaller families had set up their own auction halls near the cities that were closest to where they stayed, though they needed to pay a certain amount of money to do so. That was why some small auctions would be held near the three cities. Only some larger-scale auctions would be built in different locations, away from the cities and within families' respective bases. The families would also only send out invitations in a wide scale for such auctions. It was the case for Yu family's auction hall, which was built in a huge natural basin 8,000 leagues away from Blackwater City. Powerful warriors from the family would constantly be stationed there, keeping watch over the place. The hall was built in an incredibly extravagant manner, showing off the air of a middle-sized auction hall. The defense around it was tight, and it was built in a spot directly across Yu family's base. If anything happened during the auction, they would be able to settle it instantly. There were several tens of thousands of leagues from Yu family's base to Blackwater City. It might seem far, but to cultivators, this distance was nothing. In fact, if they did not want to fly, they would also be able to use relocation runes to send a person straight to Blackwater City. Su Ming did not choose to use a relocation rune. He liked this rain. To him, this rain was real, and it was something he could have never seen before he came to Black Ink Planet. The group turned into long arcs and slowly left into the distance amid the rain pouring down from the sky to the earth. They continued traveling until a gigantic city appeared in the distance. That city looked rather strange. It had no walls and was a swamp that covered a large area. The swamp was black, and there were wisps of freezing air spreading out from it, causing the rain to turn instantly into ice. When it fell in the water, and endless ripples were stirred. There were multiple stone bridges built across the swamp. There were several intersection points, and each of them connected to several stone bridges at once. Usually, there would be a platform that was several hundreds of thousands of feet wide built on these intersection points, while some of them were even larger. Multiple towers and halls could be found on these platforms, and shops were located on them as well. In fact, gigantic platforms that were more than 1 million feet wide could be found over some intersection points, formed from a dozen-something stone bridges. They had carved railings, jade steps, and other sorts of ornaments that were so numerous they could not be counted. This was Blackwater City. It might also be raining in this place, but the rain could not conceal the bustle of activity. The silhouettes of cultivators could be seen everywhere. The size of the city was big enough to accommodate millions of cultivators. The great size of the swamp could also be seen based on the size of the city itself. This was no longer a swamp, but a landmass big enough to be known as an open sea. Yu Chen Hai took a few brisk steps forward to speak in a low tone behind Su Ming. Mo, Tai Ci, and Hua are the three families in Black Ink Planet that are regarded as the leaders. They are the three strongest families, and only their families have the ability to build such a city. In fact, even the alien races from Divine Essence Star Ocean need to be courteous to the three families. Even the forces of power from the four great true worlds keeping a lookout over the barren lands of Divine Essence need to come forth and pay their respects to the three families when coming here. Rumor has it. It's just a rumor, but it's said that the three great families can negotiate with the four great true worlds. They can send their family members out of the barren lands of Divine Essence to train and gain experience in the four great true worlds. The group descended from the sky and appeared outside Blackwater City. The city was built by the Tai Ci family, and it has a long history. There's a lot of legends surrounding the swamp. There are all sorts of fantastic records about it, and no one can tell whether they are true or false. However, there is a legend here which someone from the Yu family has witnessed before. In the depths of the swamp lives an ancient beast that is extremely terrifying. That beast has 9 heads, and once every 10,000 years, it lets out a roar, and that roar contains 2 words, 9-headed dragon. Su Ming's eyes focused, and he looked towards the swamp that belonged to Blackwater City in the distance as he listened to Yu Chenhai's words. Let's go. We'll take a look at Lai Shan family's auction, Su Ming said flatly and walked over first. Yu Ru had remained quiet all the way to this place. At that moment, she went after Su Ming to hold an umbrella over his head, walking onto a stone bridge. There were no people acting as guards in the city, and there were plenty of stone bridges that acted as entrances in all directions. Anyone could come and go as they pleased. This lack of defensive measures in the city could only mean that Tai Ci family, who controlled this city, had everything in their jurisdiction. The big yellow dog would occasionally lower its head to look at the swamp, and a strange glint would flash in its eyes. After giving the swamp a careful sniff, it immediately put a distance between itself and the water. The bald crane, on the other hand, was completely unbothered by the swamp. At that moment, it had its head lowered and was fiddling with its claws, calculating something unbeknown to others. Su Ming had a very relaxed expression on his face as he walked on the stone bridge and looked at the unique city before his eyes. Yu Ru quietly kept him company by his side. As they stepped into the city, they gradually saw quite a number of cultivators. Yu Ru might have been wearing a veil over her face, but she still caused the cultivators to sneak peeks at her. However, she seemed to already be used to being stared at and did not show any signs of discomfort, continuing to be like a maidservant beside Su Ming, which brought the gazes of the cultivators on him. However, once they cast him a look, these cultivators immediately averted their gazes. Su Ming's current appearance, which consisted of a maidservant, a big yellow dog, and a bald crane trailing behind him, as well as Yu Chenhai by his side like a servant, made him look like a good-for-nothing young man from a wealthy family in everyone's eyes. In fact, they did not even need to think about it to be able to tell that Su Ming was a direct descendant of some family who had come to Blackwater City with his family servants. Most of the time, no one would intentionally provoke this sort of person. As a member of the Yu family, Yu Chenhai was incredibly familiar with Blackwater City. As he gave directions in a respectful manner, Su Ming walked past the stone bridges. Soon, he saw an intersection point between 6 stone bridges. There was a gigantic platform there that was about 30,000 something feet wide. An oval-shaped building was built on that platform, and it looked like a ring that was erected on the ground. There was a stone platform floating vertically in the empty portion at the center of the ring. That platform was shining. There were numerous illusory threads around the platform, and they were swaying about in the wind. The threads might have seemed to be scattered, but if anyone took a closer look, they would immediately find that they formed 3 big words. Lai Shan family. This is Lai Shan family's auction hall within Blackwater City. The building might seem a little strange, but all of Lai Shan family's auction halls are built this way. They aren't as beautiful as Yu family's auction halls, Yu Chenhai whispered softly. Su Ming was silent. As he looked at the gigantic ring-shaped building, a complicated expression gradually appeared on his face. No one else might be able to see any form of aesthetic in the ring-shaped building, but at the instant Su Ming saw the building, ripples rose in his heart. On the ring, Su Ming saw various hollows and bumps. There were also a large amount of horizontal and perpendicular lines on it. This was not a building. It was clearly a map of the land of berserkers. The hollowed parts were basins, the bumps were plateaus, and the horizontal as well as perpendicular lines marked the rise and fall of mountain ranges. The empty portion at the center of the ring was the Dead Sea. The stone platform at the empty space was once the core of the land of Berserkers, where Great Yu Dynasty was built. This was a complete map of the land of Berserkers, and this building was the epitome of Xianxia's fond remembrance of his home. Perhaps he thought that other people would not be able to understand this form of yearning and remembrance, which was why he had fused these feelings into the buildings that belonged to the Xian family. He also probably did not expect that there would be someone who would be able to see his thoughts from these buildings. However, Su Ming could tell. He looked at the ring-shaped building with a dazed expression, then at the illusory threads around the area. They numbered 1,000, not a single more, and not a single less, just like the number of blood veins within a berserker's body. It was the initiation for the berserker's cultivation method and their foundation. The 4 words formed by the blood veins was not some sort of divine ability in Su Ming's eyes, but the berserker's berserker mark, a berserker mark formed of 1,000 blood veins. He misses home. Su Ming mumbled. He could sense Xianxia's longing for his home from the ring-shaped building. He looked at it quietly, all sound having vanished from his ears. The world before his eyes had blurred. The only thing that remained was the ring-shaped building. The land of Berserkers was torn to pieces during the second God of Berserkers era. During the first God of Berserkers era, it was whole. I originally thought that it was a massive piece of land, but by the looks of it now, this is how the land of Berserkers looked like during the first God of Berserkers time. It might have changed a lot later on, but I can still see some traces of the land I'm familiar with. That part is the 9th summit, and that part is Dark Mountain. Su Ming sighed softly. "Come, let's go in," he said softly, leading his group inside. As the group headed in, several cultivators immediately walked out of the auction hall. The auction had already started. If they did not have a special token, they would not be able to enter the place halfway through. However, as a member of the Yu family, if Yu Chenhai could bring Su Ming to this place, then he would naturally have a method to get in. Once he brought out a plate, the cultivators immediately made way. A hearty laugh came from inside the building. "So it's Brother Chenhai? Come in, quickly." Appearing with that laughter was an incredibly big and tall man, who seemed to be in his 30s. He had thick brows and big eyes, which made him look incredibly boorish. Compared to the slender figure shared by the average cultivator, he looked incredibly brawny. 1. Oil paper umbrellas. Umbrellas made of paper, mainly used to provide shade and as bridal gifts. The color of the umbrellas have their own meanings. Purple is for longevity, and white is for funerals. You can read more about them here. http://www.umbrellahistorynet/umbrella-types/oil-paper-umbrellas 2. 9-headed dragon, the dragon that was in Han Mountain Bell, which Su Ming obtained from Han Mountain City and whose only 6 heads did he manage to wake. Chapter 882. Trouble stirs in the auction. Brother Kangju, I've come to bother you again. I was slightly delayed during my trip here, that's why I'm late. I hope that you won't mind. Yu Chenhai laughed and wrapped his fist in his palm as a greeting to the man who was walking over to him. It's fine. Your presence here adds a sparkle to this place. And who might this be? The man's laughter was very hearty, but even though he looked boorish, he was incredibly cautious. With a change of topic, he looked towards Su Ming. When he looked at the other, his expression remained the same, but he was discreetly vigilant. From the positions of everyone in the group, he could immediately tell that Su Ming was clearly the leader there. Besides, the covered Yu standing beside Su Ming also caused the man to be curious about the other's identity. Senior Su is a guest of Yu family. Brother Kangju, you know as well that I will be hosting an auction for the first time in a few days. That's why I came with Senior Su to observe and learn. If we find anything we fancy, I do hope that you will give us a bit of a leeway, Yu Chenhai said with a smile. A guest of the Yu family? I, Shan Kangju, greet Senior Su. The man's expression immediately turned respectful, and he took 2 steps backwards to wrap his fist in his palm to bow towards Su Ming. His expression was incredibly sincere. Su Ming looked at the man before him. His brawny stature would make him stick out like a sore thumb in other people's eyes, but to Su Ming, he could not help but find the man a familiar sight. This was the physique of a berserker. This was the rough look that belonged to those who had berserker blood flowing in their veins. He surpassed berserker soul realm. Su Ming could tell with just one glance that the man had already reached the middle stage of world plane realm, but he did not practice the cultivation methods of a cultivator. Instead, he practiced berserker arts because of which he was filled with a vast amount of qi. In fact, Su Ming could even see about 900-something blood veins hidden in the man's body. His berserker mark was also concealed under his skin. All other people would not be able to see it, but for Su Ming, everything about the man was in clear sight. He uses fire as a theme for his mark. Su Ming averted his gaze and thought in his heart. He might not have said anything, but when he looked over just now, Lai Shan Kangju's heart had trembled furiously. His expression instantly changed drastically, and shock as well as astonishment appeared in his eyes. Back then, because of that one glance, he had a feeling as if he stood before Su Ming naked, and every single of his secrets had been discovered. However, this was not what had delivered the greatest shock to him. What had caused him to be in slight disbelief was that when Su Ming looked at him, he lost control over the blood veins in his body. It felt as if they were about to burst forth from within him. The berserker mark he concealed also started showing signs that it was about to surface on his skin. When Su Ming looked over, Lai Shan Kangju even felt his breathing still and his body start trembling faintly, as if his blood was boiling and he wanted to worship the other. He had only felt something like this once before. It was when he met the progenitor of the family. When the progenitor had looked at him, a loud bang had rung out in his head. "You are very good," Su Ming said calmly. There was no underlying meaning to his words, but as he spoke, an awe-inspiring and ancient air was naturally contained in his voice, like the tone that would be used by one of those in the older generation when he looked at a promising member of the younger generation. After all, he was the god of berserkers. He was the god of all those who had berserker blood flowing in their veins. Lai Shan Kangju instinctively lowered his head and could not help but feel reverent. However, he soon registered what was going on and his heart immediately started trembling furiously. He did not dare to look into Su Ming's eyes. "Come, let us go see the first's auction hall." Su Ming smiled in delight and walked before the group. Neither Yu Chen Hai nor Lai Shan Kangju understood what he meant by the first, but they instinctively followed behind him, especially Lai Shan Kangju. When he looked at Su Ming, his gaze was filled with awe and veneration. He was very courteous all along the way as he led them into the auction hall. "Senior Su, there is a ring-shaped hall in Lai Shan family's auction hall, and each family that takes part in it will have their own respective rooms in the hall. This is Yu family's room." Soon, Lai Shan Kangju brought Su Ming and the others before a room while speaking respectfully. Su Ming did not look at Yu family's room, but instead lifted his head to look at another room in the distance. "Change to that room." Lai Shan Kangju looked in the direction Su Ming was looking, and a troubled look immediately appeared on his face. "Senior, that is Lai Shan family's room, and no outsiders are allowed." "This is. Can we?" Su Ming turned his head around and cast Lai Shan Kangju a flat gaze. Lai Shan Kangju instinctively lowered his head, and after a brief period of silence, he smiled wryly and nodded in agreement. There was a great wave stirring in his heart at that moment, because he discovered that when Su Ming asked that question, he could not refuse him. It was as if there was a form of suppression from his blood to his soul, because of which he was unable to be as free with his movements as before he met Su Ming. This was due to a form of reservation on his part and a form of majesty on Su Ming's part. This had nothing to do with Su Ming's level of cultivation, because as one of the managers of the auction hall in this place, Lai Shan Kangju had received some old monsters in Solar Kalpa realm before. He might have been nervous back then, but even then, he did not experience such complete suppression as he did now. In fact, his heart, his blood, and even his soul were subconsciously wanting to obey Su Ming, to not go against his words. Just, who is he? This was the biggest question in Lai Shan Kangju's heart at that moment. Once he nodded with a wry smile, Su Ming walked towards the room he chose. Yu Chen Hai quickly went forward to push open the door, revealing a large room. The decor might have been simple, but it gave off a grand presence. The walls in the room were all illusions, and with just one glance, they were able to see a big hall outside filled with thousands of people creating a clamor with their discussions. At the center was a platform, and on it was a cultivator in his 40s. He was introducing the item put up for bidding to the crowd with a smile on his face. Su Ming stood by that illusory wall and looked at the bustle of activity outside without saying a single word. He had chosen this room because when he saw the map of the land of berserkers outside on the ring-shaped building just now, he had discovered that the 9th summit was located in this spot. Lai Shan Kangju cast a wary look at Su Ming's back, then wrapped his fist in his palm towards Yu Chenhai to bid farewell before he left. Once he did so, his expression immediately changed and he hurried to where his family members were. That young man called Su Ming is incredibly strange. I'll have to report this to the family as soon as possible. That person is an enigma. He actually nearly caused me to expose myself as a berserker. Once Lai Shan Kangju left, Yu Chenhai stood respectfully by the side of the room near Su Ming. When he looked at him, the reverence in his eyes was even stronger. He had naturally seen the changes in Lai Shan Kangju's attitude, and all of this was because of Su Ming. Needless to say, Yu Chenhai formed many speculations in his heart. Yu Ru remained as elegant as ever. She stood by Su Ming's side and looked at the bustling auction hall without saying a thing. The bald crane completely ignored Su Ming and the rest. It was staring straight at the big yellow dog with a look of great interest. Once the dog entered the room, it shook its body, and raindrops flew all over the place. For some unknown reason, when the bald crane saw this, it felt that the dog looked very mighty while doing it. Which was why once the yellow dog finished shaking off all the water droplets on its body, a dark light swiftly shone on the bald crane's body and it gained the form of a big black dog which started shaking its body like the yellow dog had done moments ago. Half of the auction had passed by then, and the climax arrived. Thousands of people might not seem like a huge number and this was just a small auction, but in truth, if anyone looked over at that moment, they would find that the auction was filled with hordes of people. I will spare you hearing my voice now. My fellow Taoists, these 3 pieces of wood are 3 logs of ash pine wood from Divine Essence Star Ocean. The minimum bid is 100,000 crystals. The middle-aged man swung his arm with a smile, and immediately, the air behind him distorted. 3 women walked out. They were all rather beautiful, and each of them balanced a blue tray on their hands. There was a white log which was the breadth of a finger on each of the trays. Waves of ancient presence spread out from the 3 logs, and those ancient presences were incredibly dense. However, they did not give off a feeling of degeneration. Instead, there was an abundance of life force contained within them. 130,000. 170,000. 200,000. Those 3 logs of ash pine wood are mine. Not necessarily. Ash pine wood can cause a woman's face to not age for 300 years. This treasure is useful for me. I'll offer 300,000 for them. Voices continued rising and falling as they placed their bids, and soon, the bid exceeded 500,000 crystals. Su Ming looked at the fervent order in the auction hall, but there was not a single change on his face. Only Lai Shan family is able to bring out ash pine wood in this sort of small auction. Almost all of the ash pine wood put up for bidding in Black Ink Planet comes from Lai Shan family, Yu Chenhai mumbled under his breath by the side. What are the effects of that wood? Su Ming asked faintly. Senior Su, that wood doesn't possess any special effects. It can only let a woman moisturize and nourish her face, Yu Chenhai quickly said. Ash pine wood can provide nourishment for the face. If someone refined it and absorbed it, they would be able to extract the power of time in it. If they fused it into their enchanted vessels, they would be able to nourish their vessel spirits, and if they merged it with their bodies, they could fill their bodies with life force, but this doesn't have any healing properties. If a person is in possession of a large amount of ash pine wood, they would be able to create the bygone time venom. This poison can cause a person to age rapidly, and it cannot be cured, Yu Ru explained calmly. When she said all that, Yu Chenhai was momentarily stunned. He had never heard of ash pine wood possessing these effects before, and while he had heard of bygone time venom, he only knew that it was a poison sold at an incredibly appalling price. He did not expect that it was created from ash pine wood. When Yu Ru spoke, the 3 logs of ash pine wood were sold to someone for an incredibly high price. The host of Lai Shan family spoke up once more then. The universe is filled with strange things, and bizarre objects are born within the universe. This time, we of Lai Shan family have been entrusted with a task by a mysterious person, and we will auction off an item that is unique and one of its kind in the world. It has been brought out from the depths of Divine Essence Star Ocean, a region that practically no cultivator can venture into. This item would normally not appear here and would only be put up for bidding in our family's large auction, but the mysterious person was anxious to have it sold, which was why it has come here. I will not waste your time now. The starting bid for this item is 1 million crystals. As his voice echoed in the air, the auction hall fell silent because right before everyone's eyes, an old man walked out from the air behind the host of Lai Shan family. That old man had an incredibly big frame. When he walked out, the ground looked as if it trembled. He had no expression on his face, and once he appeared, he instantly swung his arm. Immediately, a statue of about 30 feet tall appeared in front of him. That statue had 2 heads, one of them was crying, while the other was smiling. There was damage all over its body, and it looked incredibly old. There was also no life force about it, which made it clear that it was a dead object. By the looks of it, it also seemed to be in a state between being an illusion and being something that had corporeal form, since it appeared to be slightly blurry. Su Ming's pupils constricted. Chapter 883, Elder Feng. That old man is Lai Shan family's guest, Guru Songqing. Why is he here in a small auction? That's right. It's really that old monster personally keeping watch over this mysterious item. That old monster Songqing has been Lai Shan family's guest for many years. His level of cultivation remains a mystery, and his sealing art is incredibly shocking. It's said that someone from Tai Ci family was once willing to pay an incredible price to invite him over from Lai Shan family so he would become Tai Ci family's guest, but the offer was respectfully declined. In the mid of all the discussions that stirred up in the auction hall due to the old man's appearance, the old man with the big frame lifted his head and cast a cold glance at the entire hall, then lifted his right hand to point at the broken statue that was floating in front of him. Since most of you know me and we can be considered friends, then allow me to give all of you a word of warning. If you don't know what this is, then don't recklessly place a bid. The old Songqing only said those words before he shut his mouth and stood by the side like a small hill. However, if he had not said them, this statue's appearance would not have brought about too much attention. But now that he said them, all the people in the auction hall instantly focused their gazes on the statue. Just what is that thing? Could it be a statue of an ancient god? That's not right. I can't feel that sort of ancient presence from it, but I can't place the one that's coming out, either. How dare they put the starting bid at 1 million crystals for this sort of statue? It's absolutely not worth it. The discussions instantly rose in a loud buzz within the auction hall. In fact, there were even a few skeptical voices questioning the value of the statue in piercing shouts in this place filled with thousands of people, which resulted in a quite chaotic atmosphere. I can't tell whether this item is valuable or not. If any of you know this item, then you will choose to buy it even if you use up tens of millions of crystals. If you don't, then you might not even fish out a single crystal from your pocket. That is why you may all start bidding now. The host from the Lai Shan family had a relaxed expression on his face. As he spoke with a smile, the auction hall gradually fell silent, but no one placed a bid. Su Ming stood by the illusory wall in the room while looking at the statue with a dumbfounded gaze. He did not know whether other people would be able to recognize this thing, but with just one glance, he could tell just what it was. The ancient presence on it was a berserker's presence. That statue was clearly a statue of the god of berserkers. Lai Shan family will always bring out some really strange items. Just what is that thing? Yu Chenhai looked at the statue by the side with a frown on his face. Even Yu Ru was observing it carefully at that moment, but after a long time passed, she found that she could not recognize it. This item isn't bad. I might not be able to recognize it, but I'll put it as a decoration in my house and admire it. 1 million crystals. After remaining silent for a moment, a hoarse voice spoke from within the auction hall. The voice did not come from the hall where the thousands of cultivators were gathered, but came from the rooms that were similar to the one in which Su Ming stayed. Once that voice spoke, it immediately caught the attention of the cultivators in the hall. 1,300,000 crystals. After all, I do like collecting strange items. Soon after, another voice resounded in the air. 1,600,000 crystals. 1,800,000 crystals. Soon, another voice joined in the auction. As the three people competed for the item, all the cultivators in the auction hall immediately became excited, even if they didn't know what that item was. The three voices all came from the rooms that belonged to honored guests as well. All those who could come into possession of a room in an auction hall belonged to the members of the families within Black Ink Planet, unlike the rogue cultivators who were mostly from Black Ink Planet gathered in the hall, or some outsiders. There was a secret chamber within Xianxia family's auction hall. As these people continued competing against each other, an old man could be found sitting cross-legged in there. Behind him were a dozen-something men who could clearly be seen as members of the Xianxia family based on their physique, and they were all standing respectfully behind him. Needless to say, one of them was Xianxia. All of them did not speak but were looking at an illusory screen of light before the old man. It was the projection of the entire auction hall, and even the voices from the hall came from the screen. The old man had a head full of white hair. He wore a long, purplish-blue robe, and his face was filled with wrinkles. He sat in the room quietly and looked at the screen in front of him. There was a waning presence spreading out from his body, as if he was already incredibly old. Faint distortions could be detected in the space around him. In the mid of them, the destruction and reassembly of space went on continuously. In fact, if anyone took a closer look, they would be able to find that the reason for this was the wind. There was a layer of invisible wind around the old man, and it was swirling about him without stop. Elderphone, we've put the statue of the god of berserkers up for bidding as according to your orders. The space behind the old man swayed as if it was about to be torn apart, and a man walked out from within. That man looked to be in his 50s, and there was a thick murderous aura surrounding him. He took big strides forward and rapped his fist in his palm respectfully towards the old man when he was by his side. The old man nodded. He had his eyes fixed on the auction hall, as if he was waiting for something. After a long while, when the bid for the statue in the auction hall had reached 4 million something crystals, the person the old man waited for still did not mention anything about wanting to buy the statue. Kangju. The old man's voice was ancient. There was a uniquely hoarse quality to it, and even an accent that was different from those in Black Ink Planet. Elder Feng. Xianxia immediately walked forth and bowed deeply towards the old man with an incredibly respectful expression. His respect came from how this old man had contributed to the family over the course of numerous years, because of which his position was incredibly high in the family, just right under the progenitor. Some of the legends surrounding this old man also caused the family members to hold great respect towards him. Tell me what you felt in detail during that time, the old man muttered softly. Understood. Xianxia sucked in a deep breath and spoke in a low voice. When I was before him, I had the false impression as if I was standing before the progenitor. I seemed to have lost control over the blood veins in my body, and even the berserker mark nearly showed up on my skin. What was more, when I was before him, I had the intention to worship him. This intention seemed to have come from my soul, as if. Xianxia paused for a moment. As if. The old man turned his head around and looked at Xianxia. When he did so, wind immediately appeared out of nowhere around Xianxia. It was as if. I do not know how to describe it either. It was as if I did not want to go against his orders, and I had to believe in his words without ever doubting. Xianxia lowered his head with a wry smile. The dozen-something members of the Xian family behind him immediately sported solemn expressions on their faces. The old man fell silent, then turned his head around to continue watching everything happening in the auction hall. He mumbled quietly in his heart, "Are you someone from our homeland? Then you must definitely be able to recognize the statue of the god of berserkers. If you are, then all is well. If you aren't but have practiced a cultivation method that can suppress the berserkers, then, forget the fact that you are just a guest in the Yu family. Even if you are one of the progenitors who have recently been freed in the Yu family, or the apostle of the sun god and moon goddess, or even a member of the three great families protected by those old coots, you will definitely die in Black Ink Planet. There is nothing Lai Shan family cannot do in this planet. The old man narrowed his eyes, and a spark of killing intent shone in them. If anyone knew of what he was thinking at that moment, they would surely be incredibly shocked. He clearly knew about everything that had happened in the Yu family, even though this was the greatest secret in the Yu family. Even most of the family members did not know about this, but the old man clearly knew about it in great detail. The words in his heart also made it seem as if he thought nothing of the three great families. Then was the Lai Shan family, which was regarded as a middle-tier family in the eyes of the cultivators in Black Ink Planet, really just a middle-tier family? When the old man fell into a pensive silence, the auction hall in the illusory screen of light suddenly fell silent. My young master wants this statue. An incredibly pleasant voice echoed in the auction hall, and a woman walked out from one of the upper rooms that belonged to the various families in the planet. The woman wore a veil over her face, but even so, she still had an incredible beauty about her that could cause hearts to pound in excitement. As she walked out, the area instantly turned silent. However, numerous gazes immediately gathered on her body. 6,000,000 crystals. Bundle it up properly and give it to me. Naturally, that beautiful woman was Yu Ru. She had an elegant and quiet expression on her face. When she walked onto the platform, a storage bag appeared on her hand. She pushed it forward gently, and the storage bag immediately charged towards the host from Lai Shan family. The member of the Lai Shan family hosting the auction was momentarily stunned. Once he held the storage bag in hand, he instinctively cast a glance at the guest of his family, Guru Songqing. Songqing's expression was incredibly grave at that moment as he stared at the woman. This is... The man from the Lai Shan family hesitated for a moment. During that instant, a lackadaisical voice came from a room that belonged to another family of the upper levels. There was even a teasing tone in that voice. Girl, I'll be buying it for 7 million crystals. 8 million crystals, Yu Ru said softly without even lifting her head. Ha ha. Very well, then I'll buy it for 9 million. There was laughter contained in that lackadaisical voice, but within it was a hint of lust as it echoed leisurely in the air. Once that bid was placed, the cultivators in the auction hall immediately put on expressions as if they were watching something entertaining. Occasionally, someone would lift their heads to look at the room where the man's voice came from, but every single one of them who looked would immediately find their expressions changing before they lowered their heads. There are very few people who dare to compete against me, Tai Ci Yong, in Blackwater City. Not bad, girl. I'll offer up 10 million crystals, but I'll give you one more chance. If you offer 15 million crystals, then I won't compete against you anymore. The chuckles from the lackadaisical voice echoed in the air. The answer to his challenge was Yu Ru speaking in her gentle voice that now had a bitingly cold lilt to it, and she did not even lift her head, as if she was completely ignoring him. 20 million crystals. Once that bid was placed, the auction hall became abuzz with speakers. Very well, I'll let your master have that statue. The price is 20 million crystals and you. Bring me the crystals and the girl, I'll have a taste of her in this place. As his laughter echoed in the air, piercing whistles came from a room in the upper levels. Two figures shot out and charged straight towards Yu Ru. Chapter 884. I want to see Lai Shan. Xiao Su Ming stood by the illusory wall in his room. He only needed to take one step to move out of the room and enter the big hall in the auction hall. Yu Ru had walked out of it like that previously. He looked at the storm in the hall, looked at Yu Ru placing the bids, listened to the lackadaisical voice teasing her, and even saw the two figures that flew out from the man's voice. All of this was only because of one single sentence he had uttered just now. I want that statue. Chaos might have risen in the auction hall, but Su Ming continued standing in the room and watching everything outside. The two figures closed in on Yu Ru in the auction hall. A vast amount of power erupted with a bang from their bodies. It was a power that belonged to those in the middle stage of World Plane Realm, and they were closing in on Yu Ru like two crazed dragons tearing apart space. Judging by their presence, it seemed that capturing Yu Ru alive was an incredibly easy matter for them. After all, in their perception, Yu Ru was only in the initial stage of World Plane Realm. Yu Chenhai's expression changed as he stood beside Su Ming. He wanted to help, But when he saw that there was not a single hint of change on Su Ming's face, he hesitated for a moment before he gritted his teeth and rushed out of the wall. Yu Chen-hai had quite a large number of people who were close to him in Black Ink Planet due to his status in the Yu family and due to him having a friendly personality. As he appeared, some people in the crowd in the area immediately recognized him. It's Yu Chen-hai. So she's a member of the Yu family. This will be interesting. That's quite a pretty girl, so she must definitely be Yu Chen-hai's maidservant, but aren't they being stupid? How could they provoke someone from the Tai Ci family? The difference between a middle-tier family and one of the greatest families in Black Ink Planet is like heaven and earth. Yu Chen-hai should not have appeared. Lust clouds judgment. This saying is true indeed. Boom! A loud bang immediately reverberated in Lai Shan family's auction hall before turning into an endless amount of echoes that continuously shook the auction hall, turning those who heard deaf for a moment. In the mid of those echoes, the people in the area quickly dispersed. In the process, they discovered to their shock that the two cultivators who had rushed towards Yu Ru had coughed up blood at the same time due to some unknown reason. They fell back swiftly and crashed straight into a wall by the side. They had blood pouring out from their eyes, nose, ears, and mouth, and they looked incredibly pathetic. Their expressions were also filled with fear and disbelief. In fact, even Yu Chen-hai, who had wanted to help, went wide-eyed in disbelief in midair. He saw Yu Ru standing elegantly on the platform and slowly putting down her hand, which she had lifted previously. She had clearly just lifted her arm and swung it, but this alone had caused the two cultivators in the middle stage of World Plane Realm cough up blood and fall backwards with severe injuries. A ripple of power that belonged to those in the later stage of World Plane Realm faintly spread out from her body, turning into a mighty pressure. Under this pressure, the people around found their breathing coming to a halt, and it was especially so for the two cultivators from the Tai Ci family. Their bodies were fixed on the wall under that pressure, they could not free themselves from it. Silence instantly fell upon the area. This scene surpassed all their expectations. Yu Ru lifted her head and looked calmly towards the illusory wall of the room where Su Ming was. He met her gaze behind that wall. "Kill them," he said flatly. His voice came through the wall and echoed in the auction hall. Only at that instant did the thousands of cultivators in the auction realize that Yu Chen-hai was not the person in charge, and neither was he the master of that beautiful woman. The young master the woman had spoken of was the person who spoke just then. At the instant Su Ming said those words, Yu Ru hesitated for a moment, but she immediately forced down her doubts and lifted her right hand to point at the two cultivators. At that moment, a low roar came from the room that belonged to the Tai Ci family. "How dare you kill Tai Ci family's guards in Blackwater City?" Along with the voice came an old man that looked like a fierce tiger. He moved out of the room that belonged to Tai Ci family with a single step, and once he appeared, he lifted his right foot and stomped on the air. With a bang, the two cultivators who were fixed to the wall immediately shuddered. Once their freedom was restored, they charged towards the old man with pale faces. Tai Ci family's guest, Yun Long Hu. It's him, Yun Long Hu, cultivator at the later stage of World Plane Realm. Someone from among the cultivators in the area immediately recognized the old man. However, all of this were happening at lightning speed. Right at the instant the two Tai Ci family cultivators who had been freed from being fixed to the wall took a step forward, a dark light in the shape of a crescent moon instantly shone by their side. They could only see a figure that was caught somewhere in between the state of possessing corporeal form and being an illusion passing by their bodies, and two shrill screams of pain instantly reverberated in the area. Amid those screams, the two people's heads were separated from their bodies. Their souls and their nascent divinities were crushed, and their forms as well as their spirits were destroyed. The expression of the old man from Tai Ci family changed. As his pupils shrank, a blurry figure appeared in midair just beyond the room that belonged to Su Ming. That figure was bald and had a black cloak covering his body. A ferocious totem shone on his scalp. This person was the Duke of Crimson Flame. This was the first time the Duke of Crimson Flame executed his full power before Su Ming. He did not want to use this sort of power too often, and in fact, when Su Ming had ran into danger in the past, he only took him and shifted into another area. He did not attack. However, once Su Ming obtained his Yikan clone, the Duke of Crimson Flame had truly acknowledged him, and his opinion about him changed as well. "If my master says they must die, then they must die," the Duke of Crimson Flame said in a fierce and brutal tone. His voice was hoarse, and there was a bloodthirsty, murderous air to his words, showing off his attitude of a powerful warrior in a domineering manner. The old guest from Tai Ci family, Yun Long Hu, let out a cold harumph with a dark expression on his face. This was Blackwater City, and Tai Ci family was in complete control of the place. No matter how many powerful warriors there were, he was not afraid. In fact, that lackadaisical voice from the room behind him spoke up once again in a leisurely manner. "How very exciting! Since when did the Yu family become so bold?" As the person spoke, four people walked out of the room. The person in the lead was a young man dressed in hanfu. He held a fan in his hand, and once he strode out of his room, a chilling look shone in his eyes, but when he looked towards Yu Ru, it turned into lust. The three old men behind him had apathetic expressions on their faces. Their eyes were shut tight, as if they were puppets. When the young man spoke, he shifted his gaze away from Yu Ru and looked towards the wall of Su Ming's room. He could not see the other, but Su Ming could see him. "You killed the guards of Tai Ci family, Yu family. You will answer for this. 3 days later, I want your auction hall." The young man smiled faintly and tapped the fan on his left hand, then turned around as if he wanted to leave. Su Ming cast a glance at the young man turning away to leave behind the illusory wall, and a faint smile suddenly appeared on his face. "Lai Shan family, since you brought out a statue of the god of berserkers to test me, then I will test all of you, on whether you still have the berserkers in your heart. Kill these people." His voice was incredibly indifferent. However, once it came through the wall, loud booming sounds rose in the hearts of all those who heard it. Even the young man turned around swiftly, and a powerful, chilly look appeared in his eyes. The three old men who had their eyes closed behind him opened their eyes at the same time. At that moment, the first to move was the Duke of Crimson Flame. As he laughed ferociously, he moved forward. Yu Ru immediately followed. Her expression remained elegant, however, she did frown slightly. Yet even though she did that, she moved her body and charged towards the young man. Killing intent filled the young man's eyes, but he moved swiftly backwards. Yun Long Hu let out a low growl by his side and charged towards the incoming Duke of Crimson Flame. As for the three old men who opened their eyes, one of them blocked off Yu Ru's path, and one of them closed in on Yu Chen Hai, who was shocked by how the events had unfolded. The remaining person moved and charged towards the wall of the room in which Su Ming stayed, rushing straight in. Loud voices rose in the area. The auction today had come to a complete halt by then. The fight between the Yu family and Tai Ci family had become the most important thing at that moment. The cultivators retreated swiftly, not wanting to be involved in this. In fact, some of them had even swiftly decided to leave the auction hall, but when they were withdrawing, they discovered that the exits had been sealed off by a screen of light they could not leave. In fact, some of the more intelligent ones had long since noticed that even though such a thing had happened in the auction hall, not a single member of the Lai Shan family had appeared. Even the host had vanished, and Guru Songqing was nowhere to be found as well. This was an incredibly strange matter. After all, usually, once a battle of arts happened in an auction hall, the family that owned that particular place would immediately appear to stop the fight and talk things over with both parties in order to resolve the matter. As the people in the area were shocked, the booming sounds grew so loud that even the auction hall started trembling because of it. The old man that had rushed into Su Ming's room beforehand tumbled out of the wall. As blood poured out from his body, it was swiftly crushed right before everyone's eyes. Fear appeared on his face as he stared fixedly at a person who walked out of the wall at that moment. He had long grey hair, long white robes, and a calm expression. With an indescribable mighty pressure surrounding him, he walked out of the wall, and he was naturally Su Ming. There were 2 large dogs by his side. One of them was yellow, and the other black. The big yellow dog was baring its teeth and growling. As for the big black dog by the side, once it noticed the yellow dog's actions, it imitated them and also started baring its teeth and growling, putting up an appearance that screamed, "I am very fierce and seriously very powerful." Su Ming walked languidly. His appearance immediately caused almost everyone in the area to train their eyes on him. He did not look at the young man, and neither did he look at anyone else. Instead, He lifted his head and looked at the area above the auction hall with a faint smile on his lips. His smile appeared on the illusory screen of light for the dozen-something members of the Xianxia family to see. They looked at him, and even had the feeling that he was also looking at them. Elder Feng looked at Su Ming on the screen of light and slowly furrowed his brows. A look of uncertainty flashed in his eyes. "I want to see Xianxia," Su Ming said through the screen of light, his voice echoing in the ears of Xianxia family. Chapter 885. Elder Feng's joy. The expressions of the members of the Xianxia family within the chamber differed in regards to Su Ming's voice. Some of them narrowed their eyes, some of them had dubious looks on their faces, and some of them put on scornful expressions. Xianxia was the supreme progenitor of Xianxia family. Forget outsiders, most of the members of the family had never seen his face before. And even if they had, it was only from afar, for it was rare for any of them to be summoned individually. Right then, to most of the family members, the act of this person with an unknown identity making this request made him seem a little too arrogant and conceited. However, while the family members harbored different thoughts in their hearts, they did not show it on their faces. At that moment, Elder Feng shook his head before them. What a spirited young fellow! Elder Feng's furrowed brows gradually smoothed out. The uncertain look in his eyes remained, but there was a smile on his face. He looked at Su Ming, and the smile on his face was one full of joy and delight, like the feeling that would come straight from a member of the older generation's heart when he saw a promising member of the younger generation. As for his act of shaking his head, it was akin to an affable show of forbearance towards that particular member of the younger generation born out of a form of affection. In fact, that smile continued growing wider, until Elder Feng eventually started laughing loudly. This joy had not been felt by him for tens of thousands of years. His laughter was hearty, and the members of the Xianxia family looked at each other while at a loss as to what to do. This young fellow is slightly mischievous. Still, how dare a mere member of the Tai Ci family provoke my scion? As Elder Feng mumbled under his breath, a domineering presence that looked down on the entire world spread out from his body. The members of the Xianxia family behind him immediately felt fear and lowered their heads, not saying a single word. They had never seen Elder Feng, who had an incredibly high status in the Xianxia family, laugh in such a delighted manner before. In their memories, while Feng Lai did not have Xian in his name, he was one of the 4 great generals of their progenitor, Xianxia. He had followed Xian progenitor for many years, and they were so close that Elder Feng was like their progenitor's right hand. Elder Feng was an incredibly stern person. There was also a sort of pride in his heart. He had been in the Xian family for many years and had an incredibly high status, but he never had a lover, and neither did he have any children. He spent his days in quiet isolation, and he did not even have any disciples. There was once an older member of the family who pleaded to meet Elder Feng and begged him to take in some children who showed great potential as his disciples, but all of them were rejected by Elder Feng. He had once uttered a single sentence when he rejected them, and that sentence gradually spread through the entire Xian family. Then, as time went by, no one came forth to ask Elder Feng to take in disciples anymore. I have a disciple. I might not know who this disciple of mine is, and I might have never seen them before, but I will have a disciple and will have a scion who will inherit my legacy. This person will be my only disciple. Perhaps I might never be able to see this disciple of mine, but I will only take in this one disciple in my life. As he laughed, his mutters were naturally not heard by the members of the Xian family standing behind him. He watched the chaos in the auction hall from the screen of light where Yu Ru, the Duke of Crimson Flame, and Yu Chen Hai fought against the cultivators from the Tai Ci family. The booming sounds from their battle of arts reverberated in the air. However, this was, after all, Xian family's auction hall. The growth of the family for tens of thousands of years had caused the members of the Xian family to not all be like Xian Kangju. When the family grew in number, parts of it would form their own connections and acquaintances. Among the members of the Xian family standing behind Elder Feng was one of these people, and he was an old man who had a very close relationship with the Tai Ci family. The old man hesitated for a moment before he took a step forward, then wrapped his fist in his palm and spoke respectfully. Elder Feng, should we stop both parties from attacking each other? The smile on Elder Feng's face instantly disappeared, and the chilly expression returned once again. He did not even bother turning his head around. However, that one single sound was like a gust of freezing wind that blew on the old man's body, and he trembled instantly. He felt as if his entire body had been frozen, and his face instantly turned pale. "Why should we stop them?" Elder Feng asked flatly, and the entire chamber instantly turned dead silent. The current Elder Feng was the one the members of the Lai Shan family remembered. Elder Feng. The Tai Ci family is one of the 3 greatest families in the planet. Blackwater City is under their jurisdiction, and if any of their family members run into an accident in this place, then the Lai Shan family will definitely incite Tai Ci family's fury. This is. The old man quickly explained as he shuddered. He had a feeling that if he did not explain his reason for his request clearly, he would be immediately frozen to death. Lai Shan family's rules were incredibly strict, and Elder Feng had another task in the family: to monitor the members of the Lai Shan family. He had the right to kill or spare them, and it was not as if Elder Feng had never used the right either. He had used it many times in the past, and every single time he did so, someone in the Lai Shan family died. Lai Shan family's progenitor, Lai Xianxia, turned a blind eye to this. Because of that, the members of the family were incredibly respectful to Elder Feng. "You are right," Elder Feng said flatly. When the old man heard this, he immediately let out a huge sigh of relief in his heart. By then, his body was already drenched in sweat. Cold sweat continued seeping out through his skin, but right at the instant he relaxed, Elder Feng's chilly voice reverberated in the air once again. "Seal off all exits in the auction hall, activate the segregation rune, besides those from the Yu family. Do not allow even a single person to get out of the place. If they resist, kill them." Elder Feng's voice was calm, but there was a freezing tone and a murderous aura contained in his calm speech, which was enough to make all the members of the Lai Shan family in the place tremble. They might not understand why Elder Feng had said this, but the reputation he had built over the years made it so that no one dared to refute his words. They immediately lowered their heads and voiced their obedience. When the members of the Lai Shan family spread out to execute Elder Feng's orders, the chilling aura on Elder Feng's body gradually dissipated. Delight rose in his heart, and it turned into a kind and affable smile on his face. As he looked at Su Ming, who seemed to be looking at him through the screen of light, he found himself liking this youth more with each passing moment. "Ha ha! This boy is good, he's very good." As he laughed, Elder Feng lifted his right hand and swung it at the screen of light. Wind blew instantly, stirring up a layer of ripples that caused the screen of light to distort. "Lai Shan progenitor isn't here, young man," Elder Feng said with a smile. This time, his voice shot through the screen of light and echoed in the auction hall. Su Ming frowned. Booming sounds reverberated by his side at that moment. Yu Ru was facing off against the old man, and as they fought, she had the upper hand. However, the old man's entire body was incredibly sturdy, as if he had refined it. Most of the effects from divine abilities and arts were greatly reduced when they landed on him. As for the Duke of Crimson Flame, he was fighting against the old guest from Tai Ci family, and they were fighting on equal ground. However, this made things hard for Yu Chenhai, because he was absolutely not the other old man's opponent. Amid the booming sounds, he was forced backwards continuously. If the 2 big dogs were not constantly beside the old man to occasionally launch nasty sneak attacks on him to hold him back slightly, then Yu Chenhai would have definitely been heavily injured by now. "How dare you commit such an act of treason? This is Blackwater City. This is Tai Ci family's city. How dare you attack the members of Tai Ci family here? You won't be able to leave Blackwater City. You'll regret ever provoking us. You'll have the fury of the Tai Ci family upon you." The young man with the fan in his hand screamed shrilly at that moment. There was not a hint of panic on his face. Although he was retreating, his words echoed in the air. He had the confidence because this was Blackwater City and because this was where Tai Ci family was located. He did not believe that anyone would dare to kill him in this place. If the puny Yu family dared do so, then they would have to pay the price of being utterly annihilated. Su Ming averted his gaze from the air above. He did not even spare a glance at the young man, but instead took a step forward. Then, right before the thousands of people's gazes, his figure distorted, and he appeared right in front of Yu Chenhai. Yu Chen-hai was in a disheveled state and was retreating rapidly. The expressionless old man in front of him seemed to have gotten used to the two big dogs' harmless bites and was ignoring them at that moment while closing in on his target. Xu Ming's appearance immediately excited Yu Chen-hai while the incoming old man paused in his footsteps, but right at the instant he stopped, Xu Ming lifted his right hand and hurled a punch at him. This punch contained all the power of qi within Xu Ming's body. It contained all the power within this clone of his and also his divine essence. In fact, when he hurled his punch forward, cracking sounds came from his body. With it, wind and clouds stirred within the auction hall. All the currents of wind instantly gathered at the spot where Xu Ming was and fused into his fist. Booming sounds created from wind slicing through the air also up, and even space shattered with cracking sounds. At the instant, the punch landed on the old man's chest. Bang! As a loud noise resounded, none of the old man's methods to fend against the punch could block the attack. He coughed up blood and his body immediately fell backwards. Instantly, it started showing signs of crumbling right before the crowd's eyes. However, there seemed to be some sort of power that reversed the flow of things in his body, for as he crumbled, he started recovering as well. However, Xu Ming's punch contained divine essence, and it prevented the old man's recovery. As the old man fell back, the two dogs which he was no longer wary against suddenly put on extremely nasty smiles. Right then, the yellow dog swung its head. It tore apart, and a gigantic, ferocious dragon head stretched out from within the opened-up space. This dragon's head was too big and was completely disproportionate to the dog's body. Once it appeared, it opened its mouth wide and snapped its jaws shut around the old man, who now had an expression of disbelief on his face. With just one bite, half of his body went into the strange creature's mouth. The big black dog by the side let out a loud howl and imitated the yellow dog's movements. It swung its head as well and turned it into the bald crane's bald head. Perhaps it had never wanted to bite the old man, but once it saw the abyss dragon's actions, it immediately thought that this particular act was incredibly mighty. Which was why when this thought appeared in its head, it let out a weird, shrill cackle and used its sharp beak to pierce the old man's groin. Immediately after, it turned into a black gust of wind and started plundering all the things on the old man's body. The old man died while harboring a great amount of grievances. He did not die because of Xu Ming's punch, but had died in the abyss dragon's mouth. His soul and nascent divinity were all sucked away by the abyss dragon. Then, once he died, all his possessions were taken away by the bald crane. He had never expected that one of the two big dogs was a dragon.